but the reason for that is because we wanted 2 tests. So there's 2 tests required, not 1, but 2 tests, time gap between, and then to the next World Championships, which was taking place in India. Okay, so we go to the Female World Championships that took place between the 15th and 26th of March. Both boxers entered the championships, and at which point, on the 17th of March 2023, both boxers were asked to take a further blood test.
Hey, Kharisma here. Welcome back to Kharisma Daily. As you heard, the Olympics got off to a crazy, very controversial start. And then we had the boxing match between Khelif and Angela Carini, which sparked an outcry on the internet and all over the world. Because Khelif came under huge criticism after she beat Angela Carini within 46 seconds last week. Angela Carini could not continue with the match because she was in great pain. She said she had never felt pain like that ever in her life. And it turned out that Khelif is biologically male. Now, her father, her friends and family have said that she was born female, she's been raised female, and that she is a woman. However, her chromosomes, her gender chromosomes or biological chromosomes were tested by the IBA last year and the year before, and it was confirmed that she is biologically male, meaning that she tested and the results came back with XY chromosomes. So the IBA, and as a matter of fact, she was not the only one. There is another boxer, Taiwanese boxer Lin Yu-ting, who also tested, and her results were XY chromosomes, meaning she's a biological male. Now, this is not unusual. These type of conditions or rare conditions happen, and sometimes it's not as prevalent as we hear about it, but it does happen. It is a disorder. It's called DSD. It's called disorder and sexual development. So I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But first, I want to give you a highlight from the update from the IBA, the International Boxing Association, about this, because the internet, online, the media has been going crazy over this story so far. So the IBA gave an update yesterday, and they said both boxers were initially subjected to a chromosomal test by an independent laboratory in Istanbul after the IBA received complaints from coaches and competitors during the 2022 Women's World Boxing Championships. Both boxers were retested in India during the 2023 Women's World Boxing Championships to clarify and confirm prior results. Both boxers were found to have XY chromosomes. Both boxers were informed of the results of the test in writing. Now, both boxers were also given the opportunity to appeal the findings to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. The IBA offered to pay for the majority of the costs to allow both boxers to appeal. Lin Yu-ting did not appeal the decision. Khelif appealed the decision and then withdrew the decision. The problem is that we have 2 blood tests with karyotype of male. This is the answer from the laboratory. Now, a karyotype is an individual's complete set of chromosomes, according to the National Human Genome Research. Now, Gabriel Martini, Coaches Committee, chairman of the IBA, warned that a fatality could be forthcoming. He says, our sport is dangerous. Where there's an unfair advantage, people could die. And I agreed with him. It's one thing to acknowledge that she was born female. But the fact is that when it comes to combative sports like boxing, and there's a mismatch between the two opponents. Number one, there's unfair. There's a disadvantage, is unfair advantage that that individual has over, like in man, she has the unfair advantage over Angela or any female boxer that she boxes because she has the genetic makeup of a man. She's stronger, and men are naturally stronger, more stronger than and women. That's how God has created us. So she is more than likely will win most of her boxing matches. Now she's lost some, yes, no doubt about that. However, it is still unfair, and I think that she should not have been allowed to go into the Olympics. Now some would say, well, oh well, this is a condition that she was born with. True, and obviously she knew about it. The fact that she appealed the decision and then withdraw the decision means that the results from the test that the IBA did was in fact true, and they've said it, as well as for the other Lin Yu-tin boxer who also tested with the XY chromosomes. You know, in boxing, there's different weight classes, right? And which is based on weight. So if you're in sports, you know, and you watch sports, and you know there's for every sport there's different rules and qualifications, and there's different I say ways, for lack of a better word, where you get to qualify to be a boxer in a particular match against a particular opponent. When it comes to boxing, the weight divisions helps to take away that opportunity or that possibility that a smaller contestant would be matched up with a contestant that who are heavier and bigger and stronger and more muscular, right? So these are why there are weight classes in boxing, for example. So when you take a female boxer who has been tested and the chromosomes are XY chromosomes, meaning biologically male, and you match her with a female with an XX chromosomes, that is uh, not a match that's made. It's not a perfect match. It's an unfair match, right? So let's hear what the IBA had to say about giving us the update in terms of the
There's
tests.
a number of concerns from boxers, coaches, indeed the medical team, medical staff, the ringside doctors, regarding these two boxers in particular. Blood tests were taken, a gender test was taken as it was during the Women's World Championships in 2022 in Istanbul. At that point, I'm just going to highlight here. So on the 17th of May 2022, the results were taken, the blood tests were taken by a lab known as System Tip Laboratory in Istanbul. We can give the license numbers out so you'll be aware of that, and the results from there were issued on the 24th of May. Okay. The tests were taken, and the results, I'm going to discuss this shortly, the results that were brought out were inconsistent. So further to which there's been a number of questions as to why, but we came about to the next female championships was taking part in 2023. So there is a time gap, but the reason for that is because we wanted two tests. So there's two tests required, not one, but two tests, time gap between, and then to the next World Championships, which was taking place in India. Okay, so we go to the female World Championships that took place between the 15th and 26th of March. Both boxers entered the championships, and at which point, on the 17th of March 2023, both boxers were asked to take a further blood test. That happened, and on the 23rd of March, the results came through, and it demonstrated the chromosomes that we refer to within the technical and competition rules that make both boxers ineligible, and that was then further ratified by the BOD, our Board of Directors. It was taken there to remove both boxers from the championships. That was on the 26th of March 2023. We had a letter that Mr. Yarolimpos had put forward to the board, and with this it explained fully what the situation was. We've got a document that Mr. Yarolimpos sent to both boxers, and within that document, and we'll let you see these documents, there is an attached referral to the blood tests that were taken. Okay, we're not in a position, due to non-disclosure and medical in confidence, we're not able to give you the actual blood test itself, but what we can show you is the front cover copy with the annex, which we'll put up on show shortly to indicate what that was, and a signature on the bottom of both documents by both boxers who received those blood tests accordingly. Both boxers had the possibility to appeal to CAS within a 21-day period, further to which the Chinese Taipei boxer Ting Lin, she did not appeal, and that was a legally binding result. And on the back of that, we then had the discussions with, and indeed further discussions with Imam Khelif about the results on the boxer's behalf. Now, she did challenge that on the 14th of April 2023, and challenged the CAS appeal. IBA paid for the costs on this, or the majority of the costs. The boxer was expected to pay part of those costs, and preceding that, it didn't happen. So on the 27th of July, the Court of Arbitration and Sport issued a termination order, and the proceedings against the appellant did not. She didn't pay. We paid the cost, but on the back end of that, the results came out that no further action to be taken.
There you have it. Pretty much, Imam Khelif appealed it, then she withdraws the appeal because she knows it's true. Like, obviously, you know that the results are true. You were aware of these XY chromosome results. You know that you're a biological male. And the interesting to me is that these results were sent to the IOC, the Olympics Committee, International Olympics Committee, and they allowed these two biological males to participate in women's boxing championships, despite the fact of the results that they were given. And their feedback and their comeback, and they've doubled down on this, is that, well, they were born female, they were raised female, and their passport said that they're women, that, so they're fine. But like I said, I don't believe it's fair. They have an unfair advantage over these other female boxers. Now let's hear what a doctor has to say about this. The doctor explains all about this XY chromosomes and this DSDs, which is a disorder in sex development. Let's hear what he has to say.
The difference between male and female and subsequent gender identity is as simple as having or not having an X chromosome, then please stick around and watch this video to try and learn a little bit about this crazy controversy that's going on in the Olympic world. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Suter, and my goal in this channel is to help teach you about the medical side of the sports world. I'm actually in Paris right now. I've been here for the Olympics the past week or so. You can see Paris outside my window there. It's been absolutely beautiful. But the biggest story the past couple days has been, of course, with women's boxing. The story, of course, is that this Algerian boxer, Iman Khelif, is identifying as a woman. She's in female women's boxing, but there's a lot of talk that people saying she's a male. She's had these previous disqualifications for having XY chromosomes and failed gender testing. And so why in the world are we letting a man compete in a woman's sport, especially boxing? This is not the first time we've seen a big story like this. You might remember this track and field athlete, Caster Semenya, who was a middle distance runner who was disqualified from running certain events because of this whole differences in sexual development diagnosis and picture. This is going to be as simple as possible of an embryology or the study of how we grow and develop, genetics and physiology lesson, so I can try to open people's mind to some of these challenging discussion points. Our genes are the blueprint for how our body functions and is built and is made. We get 1/2 of our genes from our mother and 1/2 from our father. That means most humans will have 2 genes for sex. That can be either an X chromosome or a Y chromosome. Now, typically a female sex will have an X and an X chromosome, and a male sex will have an X and a Y. The contents of those chromosomes are what determine how we are going to develop either into a female, talking about sex again, or a male, again, talking about sex. So, classic female sex, XX, classic male sex, XY. Now, interestingly, whenever we are first conceived in the womb, we all start off and we have the potential for our sexual organs, our gonads, to be either female or male. The presence of specific genes on the Y chromosome differentiate that down a pathway to become male. So, without that Y chromosome turning on the pathway to become male, everybody would go down the female path in terms of their sexual development. So if you have a normal functioning Y chromosome that turns on the pathway to send you down to have male sexual characteristics, male genitalia, etc. That's the basic black and white kind of bread and butter of how things normally go. But as you can imagine, there are a lot of possible errors in not only the genetic composition, but also what happens from the downstream physiology standpoint. On that Y chromosome is a specific gene that turns on a lot of the testosterone, the androgen signaling pathways that form the gonads, the external and internal sexual characteristics. So we're talking about the external signs like breast, gonads, etc., versus the internal genetics. With these differences or disorders of sexual differentiation, or DSD, the genetics are XY, so you have that Y chromosome that's trying to turn on the pathway to fully have those male characteristics, but there's abnormalities that don't give the normal male gonads, male hormone profiles. So what you are left with is a very convoluted, very complicated picture of varying degrees of both physiology from a hormone standpoint to external physical characteristics that are what we see when we look at somebody to make us think male or female in the traditional sense. Oftentimes with these athletes, that results in higher levels of testosterone that gives them more of this athletic advantage. But because they have any variety of all these different genetic enzymes, testosterone, hormonal dysregulations and abnormalities, they might not have the exact same external features, or what we call phenotype, that would make us classically think of somebody as male or female. So you can have these individuals who might look more masculine than a female, but whenever they were born, their external genitalia wasn't clearly male or clearly female. And then you can imagine all the stress and anxiety and everything that comes downstream of that when you don't have clearly male or female features. This is not always a black and white thing. And these DSD syndromes, these disorders, are far more common than you would think. These are not like 1 in a million types of things. And if you think of an athletic population where any sort of physiologic advantage might make you rise to the top, there's actually probably a high number of these individuals that are high-level athletes because they have had that boost in their physiology. But it's no fault to them. I really encourage people to try and be open-minded and learn or read more about this, because again, it is not as simple as saying so-and-so has an X chromosome, so therefore they are male. There is a lot of potential ambiguity that is no fault to the athlete or that individual. This is a really nice little review paper on PubMed that talks about all these disorders of sexual differentiation and the genes that play a role. This SRY gene is kind of that sex determining part we talked about with the Y chromosome. That's the main male regulator, but you can have abnormalities in that. I mean, all of these different genetic abnormalities that could result in downstream variation. There is so much gray area in this. And so to simplify the question of this Algerian boxer and say, well, she has a Y chromosome, so therefore she absolutely is male, It is not that simple. It is very, very complicated trying to determine the difference there when you get these DSD individuals. Different sports have different ways of managing this. Track and field has tried to look at some different testosterone levels where you have to be below a certain threshold to compete in certain events that they feel you have a high competitive advantage. But there's no consistency across the sports world in terms of how these athletes are managed and handled when it comes to a sport and differentiation that has been historically male and female. I don't know the answer to this. I'm not going to act like I know the answer for how you handle these athletes who, again, at no fault to their own, are in this really difficult situation where their whole life they have not clearly looked or felt in the classic sense that we think of as male or female. They want to do sports. They want to be athletic. Maybe they're really good at their sports, and so that's a good outlet for them. But then they get further on in life and we discover this thing and we run into these questions of male and female. So think of putting yourself in that woman's shoes. I don't think necessarily that this Algerian boxer is trying to like deceive the system and just win gold medals. But think about being a child and having one of these known, diagnosed differences in sexual differentiation syndromes where you don't look like your friends who are female or male. You feel different because of your hormone levels. How are you supposed to put those people in a box of purely male or female? Again, I don't know the solution. I don't know the answer, but I wish that we all had the intellectual maturity to not just see these headlines, not see the way somebody looks, and automatically assume that just because we are told they have a chromosome, they must be male or they must be female. And again, we're talking about from that sexual side effect, because I think there are a lot of other gender identity things that factor into this as well with how you're raised and the psychology of it. So it's a very, very complex situation. So the basics, you get one set of chromosomes for each parent. Classic males have an X and a Y. Classic females have an X and an X. All of us start down the same pathway with potential to be either female or male from a sexual organ, sexual characteristic standpoint, but the presence of some genes on the Y chromosome send that classically down the pathway male. However, abnormalities in that Y chromosome, potentially an extra chromosome, I didn't even mention that, Klinefelter, where you can have more than just those two chromosomes, send us down these pathways where we have abnormal phenotype, meaning abnormal physical characteristics, and abnormal physiology that don't clearly put us in the male or female box.
There you have it. You know, I get what he's saying, you know, and I empathize with Iman Khelif and the other boxer, you know, being raised female, but you have this disorder. I get it. But at the same time, you've entered into a competitive sport, which is combative, and you have a competitive advantage over that person, for that other female opponent, because of this DSD, because of this disorder. So what are these females supposed to do? You know, these female boxers that fight Iman or anyone who has an XY chromosomes, what are they supposed to do? Oh well, she's just biological male and she has a disorder, and so be it, and be okay with it. No, this is why the IBA tested and sent the information to the IOC. Now, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, is a very woke organization, and they're all about. The funny thing is, they said that they're about inclusion, but what is it about this inclusion when you're actually excluding real women, or, you know, affecting real women in a sport? How can it be inclusive? So they're very woke, and they ignored these test results, and they allowed Iman and the other boxer to box against biologically women. And it's interesting to me because the other boxer, she ended up apologizing to Iman. I don't know why she did. She should have just standed her ground. She apologized, you know, and Angela Carini, I don't understand why she apologized. I guess she was pressured too. But my opinion is that Iman and the other boxer had a competitive advantage over these other, whoever they box, over Angela Carini and any other female boxer, that they will continue to box in the Olympics and in the future. They have a competitive advantage, and I don't think it's fair. I want to hear your opinion. Do you really think it matters if she's an XY, if she's biologically male, she's been tested with XY chromosomes? Do you think it matters? Do you think if this should be a big deal? Do you think it's fair that she should be allowed to box other females who have clearly are females with XX chromosomes? Do you think it matters? I want to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care and bye for now.